Our next story comes from Japan. In the next 24 hours, it plans to hold a national ceremony, a grand state funeral for Shinzo Abe, the former Prime Minister of Japan. On the 8th of July this year, he was assassinated in Nara during a campaign speech. 4 days later, he was buried in Tokyo at a Buddhist temple. There were only family and friends in attendance. And almost 3 months later, he is being honored with a state funeral, an official ceremony by the government of Japan. On your screen are visuals from the funeral venue, the Nippon Budokan Arena in central Tokyo. On Tuesday, hundreds of Japanese leaders and tens of foreign dignitaries will assemble here to pay their last respects to Shinzo Abe. But before that, they will have to face the ire of these people, these protesters who are rallying in Tokyo to make the authorities call off that ceremony. But why? Because it's too expensive. According to reports, the estimated cost of this funeral is 1.65 billion yen. That's $11.4 million, 10.1 million euros. That's a huge amount. And it doesn't take the hidden costs into account. Reports say that by all means, millions more will be incurred. Now, for the sake of perspective, let's tell you that at a humongous $11 million, this funeral will be even costlier than that of the Queen's, which reportedly cost the crown 8 million euros. This news has upset the people of Japan, the taxpayers who will be paying for the funeral. They don't want the government to spend so much, especially given the economic condition of Japan. It is still recovering from a pandemic-induced slowdown. So thousands of people have hit the streets. They are demonstrating against this ceremony and slamming their government for splurging money. Some want the money to be spent elsewhere. Others are slamming the government for acting at whim. Listen to this.
When many people are still financially struggling due to the pandemic, it is outrageous to use tax money, as much as 1.6 billion yen, to hold a state funeral. I don't think it should be accepted. We must not stay quiet. This is why I am here.
Prime Minister Kishida made the decision to hold the state funeral without national deliberation. He decided only in his cabinet. The parliamentary system is not working anymore. The ruling parties are doing whatever they want just because they hold the majority in parliament.
These protests are no small affair. Reports say more than 10,000 people are marching on the streets of Tokyo to get this funeral cancelled. They are upset. They are angry. Some are so frustrated that they are self-immolating. Look at this headline. Last Wednesday, a man set himself on fire outside the Japanese Prime Minister's office. Reports say he was in his 70s and sustained large burns on his body. His decision to self-immolate was not just over the expenditure, but also due to Shinzo Abe's tainted legacy. Some uncomfortable revelations that were made immediately after his death. You see, the gunman who killed Shinzo Abe had cited Abe's beliefs as the reason behind his decision. What kind of beliefs? Abe's ties with the Unification Church. What is that? A South Korea-based religious body which is often called a dangerous cult. Its teachings differ from Orthodox Christian values, and its members are deeply involved in Japanese politics. In fact, Japan's ruling party has confessed that almost 179 of its 379 lawmakers had direct or indirect links with this body, and Shinzo Abe was one of them. These revelations have ignited a political storm. The church is notorious for its secret activities. A string of lawsuits further dented its popularity. The people of Japan are citing Abe's links to this body as another reason for that ceremony to be called off. The third reason is that Abe was no royal. In Japan, state funerals are usually held for royals, members of the imperial family of Japan. Politicians rarely get this honor. Only once since the Second World War has a politician been accorded a state funeral. And this explains why Abe's funeral is controversial. But for the government of Japan, it has become a matter of pride, mostly because of the guest list. Over 6,000 people are going to attend this funeral. Among them will be 50 past and present leaders from around the world. This includes Singapore's Prime Minister, the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the US Vice President Kamala Harris. In fact, Harris is already in Japan. As part of a 3-day tour, she is holding meetings with Japanese leaders and will attend the funeral on Tuesday. These developments have put Japan in a tough spot. On one hand, it has world leaders flying down to Tokyo. On the other, it has its own people protesting on the streets. This story is still developing and we will be tracking all those updates. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.